Hey everyone, so having some interesting conversations this morning before I head into the office. I think that we need to talk about some reminders. And listen, this is going to seem so simplistic, but I cannot tell you how important it is for you to practice this breathing technique. And so I've said it a million times, breathing, bilateral stimulation is one of the most underused tools that we have to soothe our body. So here's just a little bit of a breakdown. If you are sitting in a high stress state, you are going to have a breakdown in your body and your brain. And so when we're in a high stress state, what happens is we're creating more cortisol. Cortisol is our stress hormone. We actually need it, but at high levels, what it can do is we're going to start noticing that we're going to have a decrease in executive function. So being able to put pieces together. In fact, what happens is that we have little receptors on a part of our brain called the hippocampus, which is our storage center. And what happens is that when we're stressed out, it goes straight to this hippocampus, and then all of a sudden we're forgetting things. But there's a lot of people, both in my personal life and my professional life, that we need to talk about how important it is for us to regulate our systems. In fact, I was talking to a mentee that I'm working with, and I told her, hey, before you start thinking that you're ready for trauma work, working with clients in trauma, we need to talk about how you're going to soothe yourself, because this is very difficult work. And so I'm walking her through different regulation exercises, the same that I do with my clients, because we get dysregulated. And if we're dysregulated, our clients are off to the races. So I just want to reiterate, box breathing, however you find the number works for you. I keep it really simple with my clients. It's a 4-4-4-4 count, okay? Now there has been some evidence if we have a longer exhale that we might have more relief from the breathing, but I'm trying to pull up my chair. But I prefer the 4-4-4 because it's just more simplistic. Once they get used to box breathing and breathing effectively, then you can extend the exhale if you prefer that. So here are some tips. It's 4 inhale, 4 hold, 4 exhale, 4 count, hold the exhale, 16 seconds. But here are the keys. When you inhale, don't sit like I'm sitting, because you can't, that's as far as I can get with my ribs. So when you are taking an inhale, you have got to fill your lungs to capacity. The reason being is as our lungs expand, our diaphragm pushes down on all of our internal organs. When that happens, we have our vagus nerve that is intertwined with all of it in there. Our vagus nerve sends a message directly to our brain, especially where our fear center is, fight or flight. Even if you think, talking to someone in my personal life, even if you think you feel okay right now, you don't feel okay. You're just managing, you're compartmentalizing, but you are still hitting that fear center. So this vagus nerve sends a message up to our amygdala and says, we can soothe. There's not actually a bear chasing me, okay? So when you take a big, deep breath in, even that, I can't get a big, deep breath in because I'm still at a kind of a forward position. So a couple things that you can do when you're doing box breathing, you can bring your hands behind your head, so you're really opening up your chest. You can sit on your hands, right? Or you can do kind of like they call it the Wonder Woman. So you put your hands on your ribs here. And so it's opening up our chest so we can really fill those lungs up as much as we can. And again, when we fill up our lungs, it presses that diaphragm down and it squishes all of those organs, and it in turn massages that vagus nerve and sends a message up to our brain to soothe. Nobody practices this. And I tell my clients when I prepare them for trauma work, we do 3-4 sessions of regulation exercises before we even go into trauma work, because you have to know how to regulate. And this is something that you don't have to have trauma. We all have stress. So this is something that you need to utilize, because again, when our cortisol gets too high, we see a breakdown not only in our physical health, but we see it with our cognition. We see a huge decrease in cognition, ability to manage emotions, ability to remember. All of those things just go out to the wayside, okay? So when we're box breathing, 16 seconds for one box. I want you to practice your box breathing for at least 1 minute, starting 1 minute for 5 times a day. So I'm asking for 5 minutes a day. Why this is key is because if you're not used to activating the vagus nerve and telling that system it's time to soothe, you don't have vagal tone. It is no different than why we go to the gym and we work out our muscles. You have to do it to have vagal tone. I have people say to me, well, it didn't work. It didn't work. That's because you're not practicing. You have to practice effective breathing to send that message to your vagus nerve to soothe the system. So start with 1 minute. So 4 boxes, right? It's 16 seconds for a box. So about 4 boxes, 1 minute for at least 5 times a day. And eventually I want you to get to 15 minutes a day. You're like, Piper, how can I have 15 minutes a day to breathe boxes? You can find 15 minutes. You have 24 hours, you can find 15 minutes. If you have to set a timer on your phone, do it. But this is absolutely essential for your physical health and your mental health. Now, once you get really adept at doing these box breathing, really good at that, like I said, you can change the exhale out if you want to. I just keep with the 4-4-4. It's easy for me. I mean, it's just like I don't even have to think about it. The additional thing that you can do while you're box breathing, and this was so cool this past week with a client, is that we can also include bilateral stimulation. All that means is that when we cross the midline of the brain, cross the midline of the body, we're actually going to send that signal to the vagus nerve again a lot faster for us to regulate a lot faster. So there's a couple things that you can incorporate while you're doing your box breathing. So say we're doing the 4-4-4 box breathing. I don't know if you can see my thighs. Yeah, you can see them. So you can just sit, get nice and comfortable. And then when you're doing the box breathing, I want you to slowly tap your knees one at a time. And again, this is going to tell your vagus nerve, okay, it's time for me to relax. There's not actually a bear chasing me. Yes, I might have a lot of terrible things going on in my life right now, but I can be in control. I can soothe. That's all it's doing. So it increases that vagal tone and that ability to soothe. Okay, so that's something that you can do, just easy peasy. So I'll do a box with you as I pat. So it's a that's it, right? So it's super, super easy. And it's really hard when you do it on video because I'm thinking about what you're seeing and if I look ridiculous, so that's silly. Here's the other thing that you can also do, and I did this with a client last week, and it was one of those things that is miraculous to see, and I'm so blessed to see it. So we do attunement exercises and we do regulation exercises before we really step into some of this stuff. So we did something called butterfly tapping along with breathing with one another. And so we did this together because as therapists, we can attune with get connected with our therapist. And as a therapist, we can have a direct effect on their brain. And so it's called right hemisphere to right hemisphere. But what was really cool is that she's coming to me for trauma work. So her brain is already like, nope, we're still in that traumatic experience. And so I'm teaching her to regulate her brain and body. And now her brain and body has to trust me. And that's attunement. It's the most important part of the counseling experience is you and I's relationship. So I said, let's try an attunement exercise. I feel like you and I are, chugging along. We're building a great relationship, but let's see what your brain thinks of me. So what I had her do was the same thing. She did the box breathing and she followed along with me, but we crossed our arms across her chest. We have our fingertips right under our collarbone and we butterfly tap, okay? So I had her breathing deep and exhaling. And at first she was like this. She was like, nope, don't want to do this, right? So I got her to regulate her breathing. And then pretty soon I noticed she was tapping pretty fast. So I slowed my taps. And my taps were actually a double count on the box, if that makes sense. Because it's like, okay, her brain is like, I don't like this. I feel unsafe. Somebody's telling me to be safe. I don't know this woman. I mean, her brain was fighting it. So eventually what happened is I got her to finally, her taps and her breathing were right along where I wanted her. And within 1 minute, not even, it was like maybe 30 seconds, of me seeing the tapping coinciding, because what's happening is her brain attuned to me. I'm saying, okay, we're safe, we're attuning, and she's matching me. She's matching me movement to movement. 30 seconds or so, she starts crying. And she kind of looked at me, why am I crying? And it was such an awesome thing to see, because what it is that her brain was the first step was like, we're not doing this. We're not safe with Piper. We're not going into this. We're not going to slow down. I'm like trying to tell her through this right brain to right brain. I'm teaching her, just follow my movements. I showed her brain safety. And so the tears are a recognition of that fear center slowed, and then everything went up. So it's almost like the relief of tears. It showed me her brain's ready for healing. And it shows me that her and I are attuned and we are ready to get into this work. It was incredible. And you can do that in your life. You can do that with your loved ones. You can do that when you're feeling highly, highly stressed out. You don't have to have cortisol or have trauma to do this. Listen, you don't have to have trauma to use these. They are so helpful. This morning I was at the gym and there was a young gal, and I went into the bathroom and I saw somebody on the floor, and I was like, uh-oh, why are they on the floor in the stall? Like, I was very worried about her. I'm like, you okay? Oh yeah. And then I heard her get up, and then I heard someone go, oh no. So I ran out of the bathroom area, and there she was on the floor. And she fainted. She just had that big pressure drop and just, she went down. But what happened is it scared her. She was embarrassed. Thank God it was in the women's, restroom, right? She's like, thank God I didn't do that in front of all the guys. I'm like, yeah, because there could have been cute ones, kind of teasing her to try to get her to relax. But I slowly talked to her. I'm like, can I touch you? Can I help you? She's like, yes. So I'm lifting her legs up in the air, and then I cuddled up to her, and I'm like, I'm going to tap your chest, and you're going to breathe with me. And it's a phenomenal tool, because even for someone that had, a big blood pressure drop for whatever reason, this soothed her system, because she's already activated. She probably, was too hot. She had that vasoconstrict dilation. And so she was probably too hot. Her nervous system is a hot mess. When we pass out, we're also saying to this primal brain, oh my gosh, something happened, we're in danger. So I had to soothe her system. So she and I did box breathing, and I did the tapping for her, and it was great. And it was really awesome to see her. She had a tough morning, but I was glad that I was there with her and that she learned these tools. So again, you don't have to have trauma. You can be passing out at the gym, and you can use this. You could just be walking into a really stressful meeting, soothe before the meeting, or soothe in the middle of the meeting. Nobody's got to know. And this stuff is so effective. So I've got all kinds of information on my website on vagal activation. So remember that vagus nerve that soothes our system? Have at it. I've got some stuff on there. I need to add some more. I have like a meditation on there, I have grounding on there. I explain the box breathing and why and what the vagus nerve does. So there's lots of information. So go over and get that. It's untangledmind.net/vagal, VAGAL. Start using this. I get the blessing of seeing the effects in other people's lives. And let me tell you, I use this stuff all the time. I've been practicing it for years, and you have to practice, but it will give you control back. It'll make you feel more in control. And even when we all get dysregulated, we get upset, we know that we can soothe the system and that our brain doesn't have to take over and, we're off to the races. You do have control. So I just really thought it was so very important for me to put this message out there. So for those of you in my personal life, I love you. Please practice these things. I'm not crazy. I know what I'm talking about. Personal people in my life, please practice. And those that are in my life professionally, thank you for trusting me. This stuff is my joy. I love the brain, the body connection, and how that affects our mental well-being. Gosh, I love this stuff, and I'm so blessed to walk with you through it. So have a great day, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.